Okay. All right. So, today's video is going to be primarily about dimensional tiering. Welcome to the stream, Isaac. Thank you. Welcome. So, in today's video, it's mainly going to be focused on dimensional tiering. I'm going to go over a brief description about what that is and how we're going to talk about it. First, let me introduce everyone to what is known as the introduction. So, when it comes to the versus battle wikia, or any wikia that does versus battles, the community has gathered together an algorithm known as dimensional tiering. What dimensional tiering does is it is a form of power scaling that allows for us to analyze and articulate how strong a character can be when it seems like we hit a plateau. With that said, that's going to be the most important part of any form of dimensional tiering, because the power ceiling of a character will tell a lot when it comes to how strong they really can be. And we'll go over a couple of those examples. So we're going to start with the very basic premise. What is dimensional tiering on the most basic level? So the Versus Battle Wiki actually did a heavier expansion, and like I said, they're not the best when it comes to character power scale, but when it comes to raw data such as how much TNT it takes to destroy, etc., an object, they do come off as a reliable source, so we can't exclude them from everything. They go from something who can be at zero dimension, basically any being that comes to infinity and infinitesimal, and to low hypoversal, which hypoversal is like a very small being, etc. And the list keeps going lower and lower. I think what's important about this list is that there's a different there are about, I think there's five different levels of dimensional tiering, and I'm going to list them here. So the first level of dimensional tiering that we need to all be aware of is we have, so I'm going to just type in the word dimensional so that everyone gets the point. So dimension in this case has so many different words and variables and meanings. So definitions wise, it's hard to pinpoint. So I'm going to have to specify exactly what we're talking about. We're not simply talking about the very basics of dimensions, but there are many more. Dimension can come off as something that is a higher plane of reality, which means a level that's beyond comprehension. It could interpret as a separate realm or universe. There's also something known as temporal dimension. Temporal dimension is just the change of a physical state from state to state. And then there's spatial dimension. So, for example, a 3-dimensional object or 4-dimensional object. So we're talking about how an object appears or looks. That's how it goes. Now, you cannot talk about dimensional tiering without going into string theory. It's impossible, because string theory is the foundation to which dimensional tiering has been thrived off of in pretty much every fiction. So we'll talk about that a little more. First, I want to introduce, you have dimensional cosmology. That's the first category. So that's like if you have a particular multiverse or something like that. A 4th dimensional realm, a 5th dimensional realm, higher dimensionality and realms that could fit different constructs within themselves. We'll talk about that. After that, you have beings, also known as spatial. So characters whose existence is on multiple dimensions. Okay? You have dimension travel, manipulation, which allows you to manipulate through dimensional travel manipulation, transcending. So traveling to a higher dimension is not the same as quote unquote transcending, because transcending allows your entire being to be, or your wavelength to be matched up to that level. And I'll explain what that is a little bit later. But we're going to stick with these basics for now. So why is this important? Well, I'll show you in just a bit. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask in regards to many characters. But let me start by saying the cosmology. So cosmology is important, and I'm going to give it a very basic rundown, cosmology. Cosmology is important because here's how cosmology works. So a three-dimensional object, first you need to understand what an object is. So let me give you a very basic structure or diagram. So all right, we're going to go into this right now. So let me show you guys an example of this. It's going to be a very basic example. A three-dimensional object in reality looks a little bit different. I'm going to show you some examples. I'll explain. I'm not going to allow certain parts of this diagram to come up because it will just add confusion. I'm going to explain that later. Here is the very basic of this, okay? So let me copy this in there. I'll show you guys. So these are objects. One dimensionality is what they call a line. 0 dimensions is a point, meaning it has no way, it has nowhere to go. It is just a position that's represented in a system, okay? So 0 dimensionality is a point, and a point is just a position represented within a system, okay? There are characters who could be argued at this level, but we're not going to go into that. The next point, one dimensionality. One dimensionality, obviously a string. Two dimensionality is a plane. So this means at right angle, right? So if I have this line here and I go at right angle to it, right, and it crosses, that means any cross section between this angle creates this plane. And no matter how far I go, the plane can look in many different ways. This is a 2D plane. Now, if I could somehow cross section it, a right angle across each other again, this is what gives us 3-dimensionality. And it's kind of difficult to create it here because I'm using a 2-dimensional program, or a program that represents shapes on a plane, and there's no way to really turn it around as if we could do in real life. But just to kind of show you like a somewhat of what I'm talking about, 3-dimensionality is where space now can go into many different depths. And the reason why we'll say things like a 3-dimensional being, well, I'll talk about that. That's going to be dimensional hierarchy. But dimensional hierarchy is kind of relevant to almost all of these. But let me talk about it real quick before we get confused. Dimensional hierarchy can be expressed differently through every anime. And I think this is the most important part of this video, because a lot of people do not understand that a character in one fiction could be interpreted to be a higher dimension more than what their fiction actually states they are. I'm going to show you an example of that. And also, how you doing, Gigant King? Welcome to the stream. I'm going to show you an example of that. I'll get to that in just a bit. I just want to explain a little bit more on what dimensional hierarchy is. So, why is a 2-dimensional being greater than a 3-dimensional being? I mean, pardon me, the opposite. Sorry. Why is a 3-dimensional being greater than a 2-dimensional being? Well, the reason, you'll have an answer to this, is because three-dimensionality is larger. I have more space or more range of motion to occupy. So look, just an example. See this? See this top right here? This is one plane. But in the 3D world, I have multiple aspects where I can create this plane. So it's as if I can create an infinite number of size over the 3D world. So in size, three-dimensionality is infinitely larger, right? I could fit infinite 2D shapes in it because it's gone to the infinity. However, that does not always mean that a three-dimensional being will be infinitely stronger than a two-dimensional being. That just means a three-dimensional being has infinite range of motion. That's why in fiction, I'm going to show you a point here. This is why in fiction, it is important to be able to prove you are more than universal to actually make a point. So here's an example. All right, let's see here. This is a universe, right? Let me give you guys a basic example. I'm going to get to that question right a bit, Jagan King. I apologize if I'm not answering it immediately. I just want to show exactly what I'm going to talk about right here. So this is a universe. This is an observable universe. It is filled with three-dimensional matter, okay? Now I'm going to make another one. So this is an infinite universe, right? They're both 3D though, okay? That's important. They're both 3D universes. Both of them are 3D. Remember that. That's the most important part. So these two 3D universes are here. What makes them, if I destroy this, right, and I bust this universe, that would be considered universe level, okay? This is what you call universe level. If I destroy a infinite universe, I'm now high universal. Understood? So the difference in destroying them means, one, you're destroying on an observable level, which is to the range of a universe, like 93 billion light years, and the other, Yusuke destroys Zarbon, but the other universe, to show you here, is going to be infinitely larger, so we call it high universal. That's what the Versus Battle Wiki is going with this, and that's, like I said, when it comes to cosmology and other basic points and segments of the algorithm, I agree with them wholeheartedly, for the most part. There are a couple things that could use a little bit of indications. Okay, I'll do that, Jagan King. I don't mind doing that. Let's see here. So now that everyone understands what is going to be the next level, well, I'm going to show you the next level. The next level is going to look like this. Now, this one I got to get a little bit more creative with. I'm going to add a blue mark. I'm going to add this to be black space. And this blue mark is going to be the representative of that black space. So let me go to fill. Bam. You see that? So what this is, now you see the blue line between this this quote unquote universe. I'm going to explain that in a bit. Universe plus continuum, also known as a timeline. Now this one I have to, let me lower the font. All right. So this is a continuum. This is a timeline, okay? Now, a timeline is going to be a little more complex. This is the next level up. So this is why we call it universe plus, because you're essentially destroying a three-dimensional space, all 3D space inside. Now, let's say this is just observable universe. The size in this place does not matter as long as it is within a continuum that stretches to universal level. If you destroy a timeline, it is considered infinite universal already, and you're destroying the 4D space that contains it. So the 3D, so this little blue part here, right? This blue part is going to be the 4D space 4D space. Give me one moment. So this is 4D space / the continuum. A 4D continuum, in theory, can contain an infinite range. Because remember, we talked about it. They have an infinite range of motion. So if we have an infinite range of motion for each dimension, right? Let me put this right here. We have an infinite range of motion for each dimension. That means this dimension has an infinite range of how far it could expand. Okay? Now, this may expand to infinity, but destroying all infinite matter or 3D matter in it is not the same. Destroying the 4D shell that contains this is like you're destroying all matter inside, and you're destroying the container as well. So it's a lot more impressive because 4-dimensionality has a higher range of motion, and since the 4D shell is containing this infinityism or this observable universe, you're essentially destroying a larger portion no matter how you look at it. Now, that's the very basic of universe, high universe, and universe plus. Anyone have any questions so far? Or do you think I did that? Or does everyone understand where we're coming at now? Because I wanted to, it's one thing to know what's universe plus, but it's another thing to understand how to quantify what can count as universal. I think this is very important for the community to understand. And I'm before I go to the next segment, let me answer a couple things in the comments. Let's see here. Yusuke versus Zarbon. S-Class Yusuke can easily win that because Sacred Energy and his speed for being astral. Yusuke low S-Class. So Yusuke can defeat Saiyan Saga Goku in the manga, but anime Saiyan Saga Goku is like dwarf star level because of the whole feat Vegeta did to the planet Arali. Yusuke versus Kenpachi. Sasuke versus Kenpachi. That's hard. I want to say Kenpachi has amazing speed feats, so Kenpachi should have. But if we're using Boruto Sasuke and using if we're using webcam parrots power scaling method, then Sasuke can win that because the speed difference could make Sasuke massively faster than light. Yusuke Hiei Kurama versus Jace Burn and Raccoon. It'll be easy because that'll be an easy one because Kurama has the ability to pretty much trap them in their own thoughts with the Sinning Tree. So, and Kurama scales to astral Yusuke and Hiei in terms of speed. So even if it was base form Kurama, he still has the astral level speed, which surpasses the FDS, the SPS, the Spirit Defenses Force, and yeah, that would have won that. But all right, so we're gonna move on to the next section. So let's talk about how do we get to 5D. So what is 5D? All right, so let me give you an example. All right, so we know what a 4D universe is. All right, now let me grab two of these. If I'm able to destroy a continuum and my power level was jumped to 1,000, or if I'm 1,000 times stronger, that does not mean that I am 1,000 times universal. No, you have to have a character prove that they can destroy more than one continuum within their range. As long as they can do that, a basic multiplier will be added to attack potency. Now, I've explained what attack potency is before, or area of effect. So let's go ahead and go. First, let's talk about if we had two universes occupying a space, right? The distance between these worlds cannot be known because it's not a 3-dimensional distance. It's not even a 4-dimensional distance, though you could argue if they're in a 4D higher space, it would count like that. There are ways to explain that as well, but I'm gonna try to keep it basic. So, for the most part, let me take this off. For the most part, they're in this segment. So even if they're both in their own 4D worlds, the dimensionality between the two is a little bit different. Now, destroying both of them is only 4D plus, okay? That's only 4D plus, and what we know as low multiverse level. So this is when you can go beyond fourth dimensionality, and now you're able to go not even beyond fourth dimensionality, but you're able to go to two different universes and destroy them, or destroy two of them at the same time simultaneously. Now, a universe, Versus Battle Wiki used to have this, but this theory or segment only applies to certain fictions and such. The space between universes is on a fifth dimensional level. Now I'm going to draw another map. I'm going to make this green so it's easier to tell. So within this green space, right, or this wall, let's make it gray actually. Let's make it gray. Within this gray space, right, we have a world that is, we have two 4D worlds. Now, you might be saying, what does the gray space represent? Well, the gray space is going to be 5D. In other words, this gray matter, the space between these two worlds, are infinitely higher on this 5D plane. Now, destroying the two verses just means you could travel across 5D distance. Remember, 4D travel just means you have infinite 3D speed. 5D travel means you have infinite 4D speed. Typically, that's called immeasurable. 4D speed is called infinite, okay? Infinite speed means you can get from point A to point B in infinite time. Immeasurable means it cannot generally be calculated on a normal, consistent basis, because typically that means you're operating outside of time, because this blue space is a continuum, a time continuum. Now, before we get too deep, let's talk about what is time. Time is temporal, okay? Time is temporality. Now, what is temporality? Temporality is the change in a physical 3D world, okay? I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. I'm glad to see the comment section is active. Please don't hesitate to share some of this with your other buddies, everyone, because I'm trying to, you don't really get to, I don't really feel like this is discussed much about in the Versus Battle community, at least to this level. So let me show you guys the next point. All right, let me do transparent so you can see. Now, if this is a 4D timeline, now what, again, a timeline is a state-to-state action, right? Now, to give you an idea, this point, this is the beginning of time. This is the end of time, like the timeline. So when you destroy this, you're destroying every second, every attosecond, every pintosecond, every zeta, every iota, every micro, every nanosecond, every minute, every hour, every day, every week, every month, every year, every decade, every millennia. Everything is being destroyed by that many times over. There is an infinite level of seconds within a timeline. So that's why destroying a timeline being 4D is universe plus, because you're essentially destroying it infinite times over. And that's what makes it 4D, and that's what makes a 4. That is why a 4D being is infinitely stronger than a 3D being, because a 4D being, by this definition, is infinitely stronger. Now, there are exceptions, and each Versus Battle or each fiction will change that. But I hope that this baseline level will explain exactly why dimensional tiering sits around this area. Okay? Now, that's the very basic point. Again, the space between worlds. Now, I'm going to go a little bit and expand. So here's another example. So these, let's say this is a 5D realm. And this 5D realm only holds, let's say, let me give you an example here, because I want you guys to understand where I'm coming at. Let's say there's 3 universes or 4 universes within this 5D continuum. And all 4 universes have their own timeline that expands about infinite history, right? Well, when you destroy this 5th dimensional continuum, you are now 5D, okay? 5D continuum. is usually equated to multiverse plus level, which means you're destroying the 5D shell. Now, why is this impressive? Because this 5D shell, in theory, could contain infinite 4-dimensional objects in it. And we all know each 4-dimensional objects hold infinite 3D space or matter in it. So that's why this is considered 5D or infinite multiverse, because you're destroying infinite universes, essentially. Even if there isn't infinite universes, to destroy the continuum that can theoretically contain infinite choices is what makes it higher. Now, I'm showing you, as you can see, if you bump this up, now there's this red space, right? This red space that you see, all right, that hurts my eyes. Let's try something else, a little more calming. This pink space is going to be 6D space. If I destroy this 6-dimensional world, and I'm sure you guys are going to get the picture here, I become 6-dimensional. Now that means I can destroy, in theory, I can destroy 5D continuums up to an infinite range of motion. If there are more than 2 5D structures, so to give you an example, 5D structures within this realm, right? And I destroy the entire 6D world. I may have only destroyed 2 5D worlds, but if I can destroy the container between them, that becomes complex multiverse level. And that is exactly how cosmology dimensional tiering works. Now, there's a little bit more, such as hierarchy, travel, etc. But this is the very basic. And now that I've gotten this base lesson out of the way, spatial manipulation just means you can distort other dimensions. And dimensionality and manipulation and having powers doesn't make you that being. So here's a prime example. So let's start talking about character specifics. And now, give me a moment. Sorry about not responding as much to the comment section chat. At this point now, you could feel free to ask questions, because now I'm done with the basic tutorial. But now I'm going to be showing some people some extra content in terms of like how it works and such. So let's talk about a prime example, Kuwabara. Kuwabara sits in the category of, no matter how strong you are 3-dimensionally, I can cut you because my sword transcends dimensions. Now, how many dimensions does it transcend? We can't tell. So we always go with the bare minimum and we say 4D plus. Kuwabara may not be universal in range, but his sword contains universal level power because anyone on a 3D level could be inflicted by his sword. So that makes Kuwabara have 4D power and gives Kuwabara essentially you can argue universal AP, but that's not necessarily true. It's more so durability negation. Now, durability negation can only work on certain beings, and you gotta have proof that it works on higher dimensional beings who has resistance to these. But this does prove that Kuwabara has spatial manipulation. So Kuwabara has spatial manipulation. He's not at a cosmology level. Well, he kind of is, because his sword can literally cut between worlds. He has dimensional travel because of this. And he's not a dimensional being, but his sword allows him to. And he can transcend. So Kuwabara literally quantifies as probably one of the very few 4-dimensional characters in Yu Yu Hakusho in terms of his like actual AP and how his attacks and powers work. So in theory, if he fought like Kakashi with Kamui, he would clop them. But anyway, so if you destroy a crystal, all right. So we got a question from Kobe Davis. Like I said, everyone, starting from now, I'm answering all questions. So I'm not going to scroll immediately back up. So if there was a question you had before, just re-ask it and I'll answer it again. Let me answer Kobe Davis's question though. So the first question we have right now, now that the lesson is over, at least the first question we have from Kobe Davis. Let's put it up here. Let's put this right here. So if you destroy a crystal that was stated to be infinite space-time object, then does that make you infinite 4D? Well, if it has infinite, now there are two levels of space-time. We have 3D space, now we have 3D or quote unquote 4D space-time, or are we talking about all of space and time? Because if it's 3D space-time, it would make you more just 4D. But if it's infinite space-time, like space and time, then you're going to be 4D plus, which is essentially going to put you at a level where you're arguably, you have the capacity to be multiverse level. Yusuke Naruto versus Fairy Tail, and open a Discord. I will do that when I get the chance, but yeah, Naruto and Yusuke would absolutely solo. No difficulty. Urza, I don't know which Urza. Are we talking about anime Urza with filler, or are we talking about manga Urza? Because manga Urza could actually win very easily. God Fusion Goku versus Cosmic Armor. I think Revolution already did a topic on that, but essentially the reason God Fusion Goku wins, but the reason he wins is because he's not bounded by dimensions. Oh, and that leads me to the next conversation. We can talk about that. You brought up a good point, Isaac. I can actually talk about that. So what happens if you can keep going? What if I can destroy a 7D world, 8D world, 9D, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, so on and so forth? What if I can destroy a millionth dimensional world or a billionth dimensional world? Well, again, eventually that becomes when you get beyond 12 dimensions, it becomes Hyperverse. And when you get beyond 13 dimensions, it becomes Hyperverse Plus, or low Hyperverse, high Hyperverse. It depends. It just keeps going and going and going. When you hit infinite, it becomes just high Hyperverse Plus. And they don't really create any more names for it because it will take forever. So what happens when you're a character who doesn't abide by the laws of their own fiction anymore? You escape your comic book, which has dimensionality. Are you just one-dimensional higher, or are you infinitely higher? Because when you get to a level where you're around the author, you're no longer bounded by the comic strip as much anymore, or at least within the confines. So it's a very complex question to answer, but essentially you can argue Goku is outerversal plus, like high outerversal. I'll explain that in a bit after. I'm gonna take a moment to explain that with Demigra. But first, let's see here. Debunk OBD. Goku destroys Torikoverse because it depends on the Goku you're using. Nobody in Toriko can really hurt Goku because even Midora, who has like Minority World and all the hacks and durability negation from Midora only works on a 3D level. It's not like he can hurt a 4D being like Goku. Actually, Goku's not even 4D being at this point. He's far beyond that. He's like a 5th to 6th dimensional being at this point because it's a little complicated to explain, but essentially Goku's like at least high multiverse tier, bare minimum. But let's see here. Yes, if Kurama had children, they would be a Mazuku type of child. They definitely would, assuming the child can get strong enough. ODB, the ODB versus battle. All right, let me see. ODB versus battle. Yusuke. Let's pull it up. All right, OBD. Yusuke Urameshi. Look at all these ads. All right, classification. Large building, even half dead. City to grow punch. Offensive armor, country level. Superior lifting strength, superhuman plus. Class M to girls equal. This doesn't make any sense. A lot of this is just, since we said his punches are capable of destroying it, his punches are equal. Since we Said punches are capable of destroying a large mountain-sized rock. Actually, that wasn't a mountain. That was an island. It was a plateau. But anyway. It doesn't make any sense. A lot of this is just them just putting stuff without actually power scaling. I don't think they're actually doing I don't even think this is active anymore. I don't even think they care. This doesn't even make any sense. Like, I can literally prove like that wrong on so many levels. There are outer versal Toriko characters. Well, again, we have to look at, and that's an interesting point. So, outer verse level, for those who don't aware, means you're not bounded by dimensions anymore. It means that you're no longer there. But there's a difference. The Versus Battle Wikia specifies this, and I've specified this too. Being able to travel from one dimension to another or exist on a certain dimensional plane, unless you're transcendent, you do not scale to that plane unless you could destroy the planes underneath. So to give you an example, I'll give you a perfect example of a hierarchy Goku. Save Zeno. This is an example. So let's assert that true nothingness and everything was destroyed. There is no more space. There's no more time. There's nothing. And we already know that the dimension between 5D worlds exists. So let me show you an example. I'll talk about that in a bit. Because I'm gonna show you guys that you can literally exist. Man, this is no. I'm just pull up my I'm just pull up the viz. I'm gonna show you that you guys could exist. You could exist on a dimensional level, but that doesn't actually mean you scale to it. So let me give you an example. If I took Naruto and placed him on the outskirts of the Overvoid, if Naruto survives, even though we wouldn't survive, but let's say Naruto survives, that doesn't mean Naruto can destroy the DC verse underneath him, unless we're doing a hierarchy transitional. That's going to be a little more complicated. I'll give you an example. It's basically like this. You're on Earth. This is what the hierarchy transitionism is, or transcending is. You're on Earth, right? This is Earth, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You're on this planet Earth, and you're like really a speck on Earth. But let's say if I bring you to the 4D realm, where your size is now infinitely larger compared, destroying the Earth, sure, you may be universal or you may be multi-galaxy or whatever it may be, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have that power. It just means that transitioning to that dimension gave you the advantage. It's the exact same thing Mammoth Mongol did in the Sonic Archie comic. That's the exact thing he did. He used the Chaos Force to essentially multi-travel through dimensions, and that made him much stronger, because when Tails fought him in base, or pardon me, when they fought the non-avatars, the actual person, it didn't scale that way. But regardless, though, let me see. I was wondering if you were going to continue. Let's see here. Let me go back and read. So Toriko characters. Also, how about Yami dimensional slash work? Yami dimensional slash work. You'll have to give me an example and elaborate a little more. Yusuke versus Captain Ginyu. Yusuke. Captain Ginyu is Yusuke has more. Yusuke is multiply times stronger than that. But let me see here. I'm going to show you guys a perfect example. So here's an example of what a being as such exists. So let me just look into this comic. So you got Zamasu, right? And he said he's going to destroy the parallel worlds. Now let's just assume there's 8 of them. Now Dragon Ball worlds, or parallel worlds, all contain their own macrocosm. Now, keep in mind, in Dragon Ball, you have the heaven. You have the afterlife, which is a higher dimension. And the reason we know it's a higher dimension is because time doesn't really exist there in the same way it does in the normal world. And it's an astral plane. And we know that certain permission and specifics are needed. So the properties on how it is behaved, according to Daizenshu 7, imply that it's a higher dimension. Even ignoring that, Toriyama confirms in his interview it's a separate world. And Daizenshu 7 confirms it's a separate world. And Daizenshu 4, World Guide, confirms this. So we know that destroying the Dragon Ball macrocosm is like destroying a low multiverse construct. But not only a low multiverse construct. Since both contain their own timeline, since the heavens doesn't really have its own timeline, you can either argue low ball, it's 4D plus, or high ball, it's a 5D plus realm. Because the space between universes is 5D, and we know the Kaioshin realm, according to Daizenshu, orbits outside of the living world and outside of the afterlife, outside of the entire globe. So technically there has to be some general space between that. We know that Champa confirms there's a neutral zone between macrocosms, so you can either argue it's 5D or 6D. It depends on how you really interpret it, because again, dimensionality really goes off of the debating tactics you use as well, because you have to be able to debate and bring a rhetoric that can prove that the dimension you're stating it is can actually work within the series. Now, when you have a character such as Amasu, who not only transcends these worlds or is enough to destroy the entirety of the timeline itself, if he can destroy parallel worlds, unless Goku meant, like, destroy their civilization. But if Goku didn't mean destroy civilizations, Amasu would have to be, of course, 6-dimensional to do that. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that after. I'm pretty sure Zamasu... Manga Zamasu doesn't seem like he was going to do that, though, because the way the Toyotaru doesn't really... Toyotaru kind of lowballed a lot of them. Anyway, Zeno erases the world, right? Now, if we assume there's no time or space here, and by the way, we know that these are higher dimensions because the frequencies have to do with quantum traveling and tunneling, but I'm not going to go too deep into that. But it says changing frequencies in a transporter can let us jump into other parallel worlds. I can bypass the new parallel capacitor, or we know how to travel to different kinds of futures. But anyway, the point is, Goku does go to right here, as you can see. This should have no space and no time, technically speaking. The time machine doesn't really travel back and forth between time. It travels to different parallel worlds or separate 4D, not even 4D, technically 5D, 6D realms. Because again, the timeline in Dragon Ball is a lot bigger than a timeline would be in DC or Marvel. Just like a timeline in Xenoblade, like Shulk, Xenoblade Chronicles would also be like technically a little bit larger because the way they treat it. Same with Dragon Quest VIII. But anyway, let me read the comments. Sorry, I've been like distracted. Let me look at this again. Lustful Metal Alchemist versus Naruto Land of Ways. I don't know, to be honest, because I don't know how far Lust can get. Yami from Black Clover has an attack that can cut through dimensions. Perfect. All right, so I'll answer. Now I can answer that. My bad. That means the bubble contained the 5D afterlife is 6D. You could argue that, Andre. And that's not even, and that's exactly why I was trying to explain. Dimensional tiering, you have to know how to actually interpret the series you're watching, because every series is not equal. Dimensionality is never equal in every series. I can give you a perfect example for this, but I'll go into that a little more. Let me read this. If he can cut through dimensions, he should be 4D plus, depending on how far he can go about it. But again, does that mean he can cut you and cut your arm off through a dimension? Or what does he mean? My thoughts on King of Lightning. He's chill and he's funny. He doesn't really go too deep into it. He does appear to be sometimes incredulous. Like, I don't think he can wrap it. I don't think he... A lot of people are incredulous, though, when it comes to versus battle, because a lot of people don't believe what they hear. Like, when you look at Goku, you look at this goofy guy. Does he look like someone who can destroy a fifth-dimensional macrocosm a billion times over by stacking on his multipliers? Does he look like someone who could do that? No, of course not. Not even close. It doesn't even look like it at all. So it's really hard to scale him. It seems impossible because it's like, come on, man, this guy looks too goofy. He doesn't seem like he can do that. I mean, he's a simple human. You could fit 700 billion Gokus on 700 trillion Gokus on Earth and still not even reach the max capacity. And it's like, you want me to believe this tiny little human packs in so much of a punch that he could do that? And that's the reality of anime. But I think it's infinite 3D attack. Well, does it allow him to cut through timelines? Or does it allow him to cut and travel through space? Because Kuwabara can cut through hyperspace. And we all know hyperspace is more than 3 spatial dimensions in most fictions, based on interpretation. Even if we don't use the term hyperspace, the anime does support that it is a different plane. That's why Hiei says, Dark Stroker can control a lower planar demon. So, you know Bill Cipher? I don't know if you guys know Bill Cipher. Does anyone know who Bill Cipher is? Let me know in the chat if you know who Bill Cipher is, because I'm about to explain something that's going to piss off or be laughable to some fans. All right, let's see here. Uber Hikari. I don't know who Uber Hikari is, or I haven't looked her up, or him, or who. Spatial magic. Well, if it says spatial, that means it has to be a physical object. And if it's a physical object, then I'll look into it and see how far can that object go. Because if he can cut through a 4D object, then it's still 4D. So it really depends. You have a scan? Let's see here. Oh, you know Bill Cipher. Perfect. So let me tell you about Bill Cipher. Bill Cipher obviously is 4D plus now. But before he became 4D and got his interdimensional makeover, let's say Bill Cipher was just 2D like he used to be. Someone such as Dark Stroker, an A-class, well, no, he's really a upper B-class demon with ridiculous hacks. His hacks are insane. He puts it here and say they are the few. This is in the anime, because I want you guys to know this comes from the Japanese, so I don't want you to think Viz manga messed up when they said this. But it says they are a few of the species that are able to make lower order demons from other dimensions their servants. Now, lower order demons would not be a D class in this context, because if that was the case, he would be saying, oh, he's using D class demons to trap Kurama, Kuwabara, and Hiei. And Kurama, Kuwabara, and Hiei are obviously like upper B class, all of them. A demon who possesses shadow hands that can freely travel through dimensions. So he can travel through dimensions, and as stated by Kurama, they ask, it would appear we're in the Yarotoku, which just refers to like dimensional plane, swallowed by, right here, and Yarotoku is a planar demon that lives between dimensions. This interpretation in the Viz manga will be shown here. As it says here in the Viz manga, it says, where are we? And Kurama answers, we are in hyperspace, devoured by the inverse man. Hiei says, you mean the two-dimensional demon who lives between dimensions? And Kurama answers, yes, looks like someone's controlling it. And he says, that's true. It's sort of my pet. Now, for those of you who are skeptical, do I have the image of Dark Stroker? Because I know I have his image, and they describe what he can do. Let me see here. From Gravity Falls. Yup. Did you ever see the King Lightning debates on the other channel on Otaku Battle Dome? His debates had me crying laughter. It's really funny. I look for it for entertainment value. Yeah, he actually is really funny. You mean that 5D guy from Gravity Fall? From what I heard, Hisoka versus Suzaku. Oh my gosh, Suzaku is destroy Hisoka. I'm sorry. Nope. No, not even close. Because the thing is, you gotta think about it. Suzaku scales to 30% to Guro. Or at least partly 30%. Not really, but he scales up there. He scales not too far from Shishi Wakamaru, who's city level. I'm sorry, Hisoka gets clom bomb bopped. Not a chance. But let me see here. Not really. Um, not really, Buddy Biggs, because some of the characters don't. Well, yeah, technically they can because they can travel between worlds, but that's not really exactly the same. I'll explain in a little bit. You know what? I will consider watching Black Clover. That I might actually consider it because I heard Black Clover is good, especially with RDC World making all their funny skits. He's like, I gotta become the Wizard King. I gotta yell every 5 seconds. So I'll see about it. But anyway, this says here. Oh, that's a good one, Isaac. I'm gonna answer that in a moment. All right, so this demon possesses the shadow hands, which allow free passage between dimensions, and is one of the few with the ability to command lesser demons living in different dimensions. Demons come from demon world, so the fact that he's controlling demons on a lower that are lesser means he's controlling them on a lower plane. Remember, Kurama and Hiei, who all would foderize any D-class demon, could not escape this demon, and they needed the dimensional sword to completely get free. So that shows that Dark Stroker, and by this statement here, this works so well. A powerful force field in the subspace between the demon plane and of the human world. It shows here that they were indeed looking for people who can transcend dimensions. So it's very clear that someone such as Dark Stroker, if he met Bill Cipher before Bill Cipher's upgrade, logically he'd be able to control. Like, use him as a pet, only because of the way his powers work. Technically, which is kind of insane, because technically he's one of the only characters we can confirm that can infinitely control a 2D being. I mean, with complete control in a 2D being that can go between 4D planes. But anyway, that's another story for another time. I mean, let me see here. For travel purposes, not in a combat way. Yeah, travel purposes, absolutely. Now, Enerjack. Whoo, Enerjack. How do I answer this? Enerjack is a character who... So, let's first understand how strong Sonic is in the base form. Alright. So first, for those who don't know, you have to know what the Cosmic Interstate is. The Cosmic Interstate is technically a realm that isn't... I'm going to pull it up here. See, I used to have the scan on deck, but I'm just reading here. To understand the Cosmic Interstate, one has to understand the multiverse, the grand array of alternate realities, okay? The Mobius and Sonic the Hedgehog we're most familiar with is the Prime Zone. The Prime Zone is the core of the multiverse. All alternate realities are variations upon this zone. So that means Sonic is literally outside of a universe. Or he's technically on a... Sonic has immeasurable speed in base form. Now, trust me, I hate saying Archie Sonic can beat Dragon Ball characters, which annoys me. But I gotta give Sonic his credit. This is the interdimensional highway. It's network roads that connect to all zones of the multiverse. Now, there are a couple scans that says there's millions of multiverse, but there are a couple that says it's infinite. And we all know Sonic follows the theory of alternate reality and dimensions. That is actually a fact. They do follow that theory. And because they follow alternate reality theory, the Chaos Force... there's another zone. There's a zone that... there's Sonic, the Cosmic Cop. He watches over these zones. So you can either... I can't argue how many dimensions higher he is, but I do know in order to travel from multiple multiverse dimensions and destroy them like someone like Mammoth Mongol could do, you would have to be 6D, which tells us that the Chaos Force, being a higher plane beyond all of this, should be 6th to 7th dimensional. Technically, the Chaos Force can be arguably higher, though, and I'm going to tell you why. Let me pull it up in my other file because I still have it. I think I still have it on my MGAR. All right, let's see here. How would you... Archie Sonic's actually pretty bust. Oh, yeah, of course he is. I used to downplay Archie Sonic, but that was because the comic had two different authors, Ken Penders and Ian Flynn. And Ken Penders... I think Ian Flynn tried to downgrade Sonic, and then Ken Penders had Sonic at like such a ridiculous level that it became very difficult. So anyway, let's see if I could pull it out. All right, I'm going to use this scan, this scan, this scan, and this scan as my sources of argumentation in this scan. Yeah. So first, let's talk about... let's see. This is old. So right here, he's saying, like, Mammoth Mongol was able to trick Knuckles and totally of his power absorbed by Mongol's emeralds. What did he say here? The explosion killed Knuckles if he had stayed in the afterlife and become one with the Chaos Force. It would remain in balance. But when Knuckles decided to return to help Mobius in its fight against the Zorda, Knuckles was powerless. Mongol, who was also one with the Chaos Force, used this to his advantage. Its unbalance gave Mongol the opportunity to take its power completely. He'll destroy every zone in existence. Now, this means Mongol. Now, most people say, doesn't that mean Mongol's 5D? No, the Cosmic Interstate is 5D and contains all zones. But Mongol can travel between that, and as we know, the Chaos Force, technically the afterlife, really, in the realm outside of the time-space. So time-space, which is 4D or 5D, outside of it, so it's 5D mostly say, but technically the Cosmic Interstate was already 5D, so this has to be higher than the Cosmic Interstate. The entity who was Knuckles the Echidna, death, so we're in afterlife, moments later on a higher plane of reality. Okay? So, let me get the next scan to bring some evidence. So that right there, let me see the chat. This right here proves that Archie Sonic or Mammoth Mongol, who became one with the Chaos Force, which should technically be an infinite realm, if he became an entire 60+ realm itself, Mammoth Mongol is either low 7th dimensional or high 6D, bare minimum. So that means Mammoth Mongol is actually complex multiverse tier. And a lot of people will argue against that because they say, well, didn't it take him time to destroy the realms? He was still getting used to his powers. So it's a little more complicated than that. If I'm interpreting this correctly, that is. Because the Archie Sonic is a long series, so. Now I'm going to show another scan that supports it. Because I know somebody tried to make a video and say why Goku can never beat Sonic. That's another case story, and I'm not gonna go that far. But anyway, now that they have all 7 and the Super Genesis Nova has no limits, anything done will erase and reshape everything. When we only had one Chaos Emerald, the Genesis Wave could simply bend the rules of reality and cheat them, and so on, as seen in Sonic Genesis. And they're telling you like where you can find this information. Eggman talks about Sonic being like a quantum level being. So Sonic, that's quantum. When you start talking about quantum entanglement, you have to bare minimally talk beyond the 4D space. Bare minimum, that proves Sonic is 5D in base form. Because he's unpredictable. That means you can't, he's a-casual. Which, there are a couple characters who are a-casual. There's a lot of characters a-casual, but anyway. Let me see here. What would you Hakusho prequel story you want to animate? I would want Ryzen's story. Scaling Sonic. Yeah, I'm actually scaling Sonic. How do you feel about the Bleachverse? Bleachverse is very complex. It can be a little iffy on how you can interpret it, because I know they'll have statements like the Dangai being outside the normal flow of time, and then they have like the Soul Society being a parallel world, and one of the Bleach novels says it has multiple stars, so that confirms that it's at least a multi-solar system size realm. Obviously it should be universal, but you know, everyone likes to speculate. Ryzen to Kurama full backstory would be cool. I would like Ryzen because how did he become so strong, and how many battles did he win? Because Kurama we almost already know, kinda, but not really. All right, let's see here. Gah, a portal thing. All right, so let's see here. It's an interdimensional portal. this right here continues off of the whole higher dimensionality that Archie Sonic goes with. I know he says here that reality was shattered and its shards tore holes through the fabric of space and time. So again, you can argue this is just 5D. These holes or Genesis portals lead to different, entirely different dimensions. Whole universe is different and separate from our own. Can you imagine that? Now, Sonic had different zones, but none of the zone. This is the Worlds Collide, if I recall. This is the Worlds Collide volume. None of those zones. To explain it, let me go like this. Hold up. All right, let me keep it simple. All right, so these are all Sonic zones. All right, so you got all these Sonic zones here on the through the interdimensional highway. All these zones, blah 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 blah. It's like at least 5D because it's infinity of them, right? He says there are completely separate realities, right? Whole different entire dimensions, whole different universes. Now, the thing is, there's considered to be infinite dimensions, but I'm not going to talk too much about that because that has to do with the Archie lore. But I do know Archie Sonic does make a crossover with the Punisher, I think. I think it was the Punisher, or they have a couple like references. And some of them can be Easter eggs, so it's hard to really take it serious. But I know they do follow the actual rules of real reality. Here's another scan to support that Shadow can access the Chaos Force at will. He says, and I'm tapping fully into the Chaos Force. So Shadow's base form can literally, do some things. Anyway, Mega Man has nothing to do with Sonic in his history. So when they say different dimensions, he literally means a completely different dimension because Mega Man's world is kind of contradictory though, because Eggman says Mega Man's world is like a parallel world to theirs, to Mobius, but it's slightly different. But technically, none of the Cosmic Interstate worlds have any Mega Man history or Mega Man world. So technically, it's a completely separate world. It's kind of like what Xeno Goku and One Piece existing in the same game, but One Piece doesn't. The infinite history Demigod was going to destroy has nothing to do with Luffy, so Luffy comes from a completely separate space of infinite history in his own right, or a different dimension that's going to be outside of that. It's a little complex to explain, but basically saying if all this is Sonic history, and then you get like, I don't know, SpongeBob or Mega Man coming in the picture, then technically we're talking about separate histories that go across their own place. Anyway, though, Archie Sonic is very confusing on his cosmology, though. Let's see here. Showing Yomi and Makuro to the full power to become demons. That would be interesting. But anyway, to give you an idea, the basic premise, I'm just going to end it. I'm just going to stop it right there and just say this. If I'm highballing your frequency, your psychic frequency reharmonize the dimensional fragments and healing the rift between space and time. Now, right here he says, but this tear has much more severe than just than the main calculations predicted. At this rate, we may very well be able to neutralize the anomaly before there is a total collapse of the dimensional matrix. Now, if the exist of other dimensions, since this included Mega Man included, technically dimensional matrix has to do with M theory. I mean, just a simple, like, look. Literally, it just brings up dimensional math of encryption algorithms for dimensionality. It could literally be interpreted to be 12D. I'm not going to go there. But this is why people say Archie Sonic is 11th dimensional, because if they did have an actual matrix, which matrix just means the material or the origin, if they do actually have such a thing, then they would scale to that level. But again, that's more on the highball. So let me it's getting pretty late over here. So let me get some scans to kind of conclude where I'm coming from, because you got characters like this baboon. Oh, and then you got the Nexus reality world, and there's so many evidence. Like there's a dream world and so on. But anyway, and now we'll affect every facet of creation with more Unity engines. An infinite number of worlds strengthening me with an infinite amount of power. Now, if we say that he's going beyond Mega Man's world, the Chaos Force, beyond all creation, the highest interpretation of this, meaning he'll have no limits, and he's going beyond the facet of creation, and if we include that there is some continuity of Riverdale in this, you can really wank highball this to outerversal, because it's technically he's going beyond everything that was created. He's no longer limited to it. With infinite worlds, which is implying that he's using basically infinite continuities and existences, realities, multiverses to power him up, or complex multiverses, etc. It goes on. Or you could just simply say, all right, he's only one dimensional higher, so he's at least seventh or eighth dimensional at bare minimum. That's the best you can get him, probably. But yeah, in other words, God Sigma or Interjack, who should scale not too far from him, would absolutely bing bong slap up Demi Gras. Of course, that would only matter if, depending on the interpretation you give Demi Gras. But in reality, I think Demi Gras would beat. It's hard to say because Demi Gras has reality warping, dimensional travel. He can transcend to higher dimensions, escape from fiction. He can go beyond the fiction himself. Actually, never mind. Demi Gras. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Demi Gras is 1A. There's a whole another story about that, but I'm going to try to keep it tame. Let me see here. I had a feeling that another stream would be up. Evening, everyone. Showing more of Tagoro and Genkai story would be cool. I do agree. So he's like one of those fictional vampires. Kinda. I would love to see the original Sacred Energy user. Same here. And also, Archie Sonic has a crossover with Spawn. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Spawn wasn't Marvel. But Spawn was... what was it again? Spawn comes from... what type of comic was it again? Don't tell me. Was it like Image Comics or something like that? Because I think Spawn comes from Image Comics. The Toki. Okay, Andre, we're trying to make this fair. You can't use Toki Demi Gras. Because Toki yo, you should post the link to the image so I can pull it up, because I can't pull it up right now. Toki Demi Gras is basically a character who... So remember the macrocosms in Dragon Ball. So you got the living world, etc. Now, according to Xenoverse, each world has its own world of void. So you basically got this like 6D structure, right? Or 7D structure. You could say 7D, 6D, whatever. You got these timeline. You got this big 70, 60 timeline world or history. There's an infinite set of them. Demi Gras can destroy not only an infinite set, but the crack of time itself, which contains it. Meaning that Demi Gras is either 8th or 7th dimensional, period. Which is ridiculous. And the thing is, Demi Gras could actually go higher. Because with Toki, he was able to go beyond to Beats World, which is a fiction higher. Now, most will say, oh, doesn't that just make Beats World one-dimensional higher? No. Beats World actually contains the author. I know SSJ Ryo's working on something right now to pretty much see how much higher. SSJ Ryo, unlike me, I will go off of an argument. I'll bring up a point, and then I'll continue to bring a rhetoric for that particular premise. But someone like SSJ Ryo, he wants every evidence he can get and compiles them so that when you try to debate him or if you try to debunk him, it's going to be really hard because you got to address every point, and he'll bring up evidence that supports itself. I only bring up 3 to 4 bits of evidence that support itself, and I'll go on with a basic argumentation. But someone like SSJ Ryo, he's going to bring up everything. He's going to get Toriyama's interview or something. But Super Dragon Ball Heroes, yeah, Super Dragon Ball Heroes. For those who aren't aware, Super Dragon Ball Heroes, let me just show you something pretty interesting. So you know God Fusion Goku? The events of Universal Studios, God Fusion Broly, is actually canon to Dragon Ball Heroes. Yes, that's right. So technically, Beats World should be the actual real world. So when they use this term in Toei or during the promotion guides, like, oh, it's Beats Real World, we're not talking like a higher dimensional real world. They treat Dragon Ball like fiction in a video game. And the thing about it is, in theory, the author, Yoshihiro, or Yoshito, was his name? I think it was Yoshito. Yeah, his name. Let's get his real name. Yoshitaka Nagayama. This guy right here, though that's just an actor, but the actual author of the charisma or the mission the mission books for Dragon Ball Heroes, he himself is a canon character in the Dragon Ball Heroes. And as the author of the Dragon Ball Heroes video game world, also known as a fictional anime world, he could literally, if he wants to, he can add higher dimensions in the game. He's a programmer for the freaking game. He made the game itself. It's just that the game got so powerful. The characters in the game somehow, I know it sounds stupid, but the characters in the game are so strong, they transcend the actual game itself and break all limitations for themselves. That's why we consider it technically it's 1A, because they're not bounded by dimensions. If you could break across the borders of fictionality and break the fourth wall, period, and attack the literal creators of you, who can literally add what they want to your story, then you are now fighting a being who not only can transcend the author's authority, but you're fighting a being who can, like, go beyond the threshold. Like, a lot of people don't really realize how broken Dragon Ball Heroes truly is. I think this was the scan when Goku's going to destroy all of history when he powered up to Super Saiyan 4. But yeah, anyway, the point is, though, it's ridiculous how strong Dragon Ball Hero characters can actually be interpreted. And God Fusion Broly scales to it. It's crazy. But anyway, I'm actually curious about your thoughts on a few Fate characters. Namely, Solomon, Arujana, Alter. Those two are pretty out there with the crap they do. Beerus versus Wonder Woman pre-crisis. Oh my gosh, yo. Beerus will solo the Justice League. Even canon Beerus can just solo the Justice League. Because even if I lowball Beerus to a freaking... If I neuter Beerus and lowball him, he's still low multiverse tier. And he would kabomp Wonder Woman. Now, there are some scans that make Wonder Woman around that tier, where Wonder Woman could be up there. Same with Superman. Apparently, I think Superman actually had like a more of an outer-versal feat with the Infinite Page book. But again, using that interpretation is like me saying Goku's outer-versal because he went outside of space and time when he went to go save Zeno. It's like, well, I don't know. Or you can argue the world, the void, has no space, no time, no anything, and it literally is outside. You could argue that's outer-versal. But I wouldn't go that far, though. Obviously, it's not. But, let's see here. Yeah, I gotta be careful on Google. Google's gonna get me demonetized. Let's filter these results. No, we're probably not gonna get anything bad, but just in case, you never know. Google is bad. There's also supporting scans that show that turning Super Saiyan God transcends you to another dimension. Let me see if I can pull it up. And we're talking about the official canon. There we go. There's that example. The key of gods that transcend humanity to battle the god of destruction. It basically, like, it's hard to really interpret this because it doesn't really mean it's a dimensional tier higher always, but it could just mean that Goku had to transcend his key capacity to a infinitely higher degree, or to a degree where it has no limits. Because the thing about, it's weird because Golden Frieza technically has a power level, right? and no God Ki, but it also looks like he has God Ki because his aura has those little pixels. And Golden Frieza can deal with attacks like Hakai, so he knows how to deal with God Ki. So it's hard to really... I don't even know if Golden Frieza even has God Ki. I know Jiren does. I mean, Jiren should have God Ki. You could see his aura represent the same heat that Ultra Instinct generates, and they both generate heat. So I don't think it would be stupid to say he does. Like, it's really dumb. And Jiren can sense Goku's power. Like, he knows what Goku can do. And again, as it's shown, if you could sense God Ki, then you could probably use God Ki. There's no reason for them not to use God Ki, if they could sense it at least. No. Golden Frieza can sense God Ki. He can. I forgot. It's really stupid, though. 1A Luffy in Dragon Ball. Yep. 1A Luffy in Dragon Ball. I know. It seems stupid, but that's the reality. Luffy scales to Super Saiyan Blue Capsule Goku in Gear 4. Even Jump Force did the same thing. Goku versus Kaguya. So, here's how a battle like that will work out. Goku is faster than Kaguya. Kaguya can interdimensionally travel, but Goku's faster than her. The problem is Kaguya's hacks, who are ocular jutsu hacks and such. But the other problem is Goku has shown to resist any type of mind control, mind resistance, or anything that attempts to disrupt his ki flow or such by just his knowledge of the attack itself. If we're using Xeno Goku has a plethora of anti-hacks. He has anti-probability hacks. You cannot manipulate probability against Xeno Goku because Demigra can already manipulate it, and he failed against base form Xeno Goku. You cannot create clones to outpower him or outnumber him because Demigra can already do that. You cannot attempt to attack him from his past or his mind. Demigra tried to do that. You cannot age him. He is not a normal... Xeno Goku is not a normal Goku. He does not age. He's completely immune to time manipulation on all levels. You cannot mind manipulate him because Demigra has complete mind control. He has mind manipulation, mind control, key amplifications, including Toa. And Toa and Demigra are the type of characters where if you kill them, the concept of hatred could literally revive them. I think SSJ Ryu 1 talked about it, how Toa revived herself with hatred alone. So you can't really kill immortal type 9 beings like that. Or godly type regeneration. Toa cannot be killed by normal means. And Xeno Goku scales pretty much to them. Anyway, I brought up Dark Stalkers last time. They too, like Yu Yu Hakusho, do a class system. But the S-Class Demons and Dark Stalkers are around 4A to 3A. 3A? Wow, that's impressive. An attack that ignores the durability of things that have chakra in it. Kaguya does have that, but the problem is Kaguya ignores durability to her dimension. Here's a difference. Kuwabara can transcend dimensions. It's stated here. Let's see here. Let's see if I can bring it up. Could it be the one that can split dimensions? No, it's right here. Now, he says something here. Matari says something where he says, yeah, right here. Did he do that? No, he couldn't unless he could transcend dimension. Kuwabara and it doesn't say one dimension. It says dimensions. So it means Kuwabara can go to and fro with different dimensions. You can even argue he can cut a 5D being. I just don't go that far because there's no 5D being in Yu Yu Hakusho for him to even theorize that off of. So at best, he can cut a 4D being. But the point is that... Oh, by the way, Kuwabara did this with a punch. But anyway, we need someone who could tear through a subspace barrier, who can rip apart dimensions. But anyway, Kuwabara, unlike Kaguya's like dimensional negation only seems to be against 3D beings, whereas Kuwabara does it to not just 3D beings, but different continuums and spatial realms, creating portals all over. So Kuwabara's would actually be a little bit more scarier because it transcends. But Kaguya, we don't have proof it can go and attack a 4D being. So negating durability has to be scalable to your dimension. Otherwise, we could no limits fallacy Kaguya and just say, well, she can cut down anyone, which would even include witches of the highest level. And for those of you who don't know what witch I'm talking about, it's going to be this Mademoiselle right here, Feather and Augustus Aurora, who is the most wanked character I've seen. And although she scales to Outerversal, without a doubt, she is not tier 0. No. I think when Abraxas made that whole thread on Featherin, I actually read some of the interpretation of the game, and it seems like it's pretty much a chess, like in Yumi Neko when they cry, the Golden Witch, from volume 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, like those episodes, when Featherin appears in, like, I think volume 4, it doesn't really give you an interpretation of how strong they're, because even Featherin limits her power, or she seems limited upon her power. Like, she can't really make someone do something they don't want to do. But then again, they also say that she can in the video games. And I really don't think you should scale video game Featherin to manga Featherin. Because manga Featherin and the Pachinko Featherin, like Featherin has like 3 different games. You got a PS3 game, you got a Pachinko game, or Pachinko game. You got so many different interpretations of Featherin. I mean, using that Featherin is like me like combining Xeno Goku with like, oh, actually, never mind, because Xeno Goku does. Dragon Ball Heroes is a composite series, so never mind. But that's like combining Xeno Goku and Jump Force Goku, which is like, that's just overpower and overdoing it. But anyway, I don't think it's necessarily bad. I think Featherin still scales to like a upper Outerverse tier. But her interpretation has been misconstrued multiple times because she does have a limit. She's boundless to the level where she can become omnipotent, but it technically won't be her omnipotence that she's having. Whereas Beyonder could still maintain his own thoughts and conscious while he does it. So technically Beyonder should be boundless. Even Jim Shooter supports he's omnipotent. But anyway, Superman Prime 1 Million is a close second rank character. Oh my gosh, Superman Prime 1 Million. He couldn't even save his own universe. I know a lot of people hate. Look, Kid Buu will beat Superman Prime 1 Million. Like, yo, for real. Like, I'm being serious. Superman Prime 1 Million is such a weird character. Like, Kuwabara can cut him in half. I'm not even kidding. Kuwabara will cut him in half, bro. Like, legit. Haguramo beats Superman Prime 1. No, let me stop. Let me stop. Better fight Yusuke versus Toguro or Goku versus Frieza. Goku versus Frieza is better at building stakes. Kuwabara they're almost equal, but I'm gonna give it to Goku versus Frieza because the suspense is built for a lot longer of a time. Nah, actually, never mind. I think Goku versus Frieza was a better fight choreography-wise and what they were destroying, but Yusuke and Toguro was a better narrative fight because there was a lot more emotion built into there. It's even stated in the guidebooks. They asked who was stronger, Sensui or Toguro, and Yusuke responds easily, Sensui. But Toguro was a harder fight. That's what Yusuke says. Like, Toguro was a lot more painful to fight him because he had to go through so much emotional trauma. Anyway, long story short, Feather and Augustus Aurora is a character who can easily scale to, she can easily scale to different levels of, higher dimensions. But Featherin's dimensionality is transcending dimension. She really can just manipulate the plot and story of such. And she's such a higher level being. Nobody in the Yumi Neko verse actually really like swap hands like that. So they're like, I'm not going to say he wins, but I'm saying that you have a better argument for Xeno Goku defeating Featherin than you do for Featherin beating him. And the only reason why is because Featherin cannot write the plot of Dragon Ball Heroes. She cannot manipulate Goku's plot, and Goku has plot manipulation resistance to the highest degree. Because again, not even Yoshihiro, the author of Dragon Ball Heroes, could stop Demi Gras. Demigra transcended and threatened to kill the authors and many others themselves, including God Broly, who scales to beat in Goku and Dragon Ball Heroes. So Featherin would have no chance of manipulating Xenogoku. And I know this sounds really weird, but Xenogoku would probably foderize Featherin. Just because the fact is she can't manipulate anything outside of her fiction. She's not like Beyonder, who shows that. Of course, Featherin has been wanked by, and Versus Battle Wikia even stated, some people have even stated, Featherin really doesn't have that many feats to put her up there. You just have one respect thread on Comic Vine. We all know how Comic Vine is. But even if I don't genetic fallacy, even if I steel man Abrax's statements on his respect thread for Featherin, even if I steel man that, they're still not good enough to support her being at such a level to be tier 0. Heck no. No. But is she 1A? Absolutely. Would she destroy a lot of other fiction? Absolutely. Easily. She technically doesn't need to even be there to destroy them. She can literally control their actions and kill them beforehand. Then again, you can interpret that to be different because you need evidence. Like, it's like, what if she fought Naruto? Well, can she control Naruto? No. But she can exist on a higher realm, so she could just destroy Naruto's world. So yeah, that's how she would win. But she can't really control Naruto in that example. Jump Force Naruto is Outerversal, though, so he wins. No, but I'm just joking. But for real, though, it's really hard to interpret how strong she is. But if you want to go there, you could definitely. But if you want to go there, there's no way you can really just claim she's like, oh, she's gonna destroy like Xenogoku. Like, nah, Xenogoku's like the most broken Goku of all time. I know it sounds like a wank. It's like, is there a character that can beat Xenogoku? Yes, I do believe Beyonder can beat Xenogoku because he actually can deal with things outside of his fiction. And there's a lot of other characters, I think, like Lucifer Morningstar. Then again, I do think God Fusion Goku beats Lucifer Morningstar, but Xenogoku, Lucifer Morningstar, I think Lucifer Morningstar has way more hacks and conceptual manipulation that I don't think Xenogoku can deal with. Because Xenogoku can still be erased from existence. Even characters like Demigod would be erased from existence, whereas Lucifer Morningstar, he's at a completely higher level. But regardless, Xenogoku does scale up there to like the highest abstracts and such. But anyway, let's continue here. I don't know about the scaling for this character, but you heard of Misogi Kamagawa. His hacks are really weird, but he has a lot of plot-induced limit that always makes him lose. That's funny. It's kind of similar to Midaka Box. Like Midaka Box, all right, so I used to have, I know I used to talk to someone before, and they brought up something about, like, Sonic is as fast as the Flash, and they said that's a non-authority claim. You can't use non-authority claims. So Midaka, who says that she scales to a Saiyan, or she knows what a Saiyan is, or a Naruto character is, Najimu, just because Najimu knows what a ninja from Naruto is, or they know about that, that's more so of a parody cross-reference, and it's no authority. It doesn't mean they scale to a Saiyan, because there's no way. There's no way you can actually interpret that. You also have to take into hyperbole and unannounced statements. So, for example, when Najimu says she has a billion different anomalies and ways she can attack someone, or no, like a quindecillion amount, it still doesn't really help any of the picture, because you think, what are those spells? I mean, I can use a fireball jutsu in a million different ways. Rather, I ignite it with hydrogen, helium, borium, phosphate. I mean, I'm technically using it in a different way. So, like, that's the type of what you call, I forgot the terminology you use, but that's like it's a type of hyperbole that they use. I still think Midaka Box is really strong, but I wouldn't take Najimu as serious as being beyond every character and such, unless they actually show her, like, defeating her author and such, which doesn't really happen. It is kind of funny that she won the battle because plot, but at the same time, that doesn't work against, that doesn't work against Goku. And it doesn't even work against Archie Sonic. Archie Sonic, too, would actually do very well because you can't plot control Archie Sonic. It's even been stated. no matter how strong you are. But anyway, see here. All right, I'm gonna end this in about 5 more minutes, but let's continue. I'll take a lightning round of a bunch of questions, everyone, for the last 5 minutes. So please feel free. All right, let me see here. Goku vs. Frieza was the only time I seen Goku flat out give up. What crossover would you like to see? All right, crossover I would like to see. I would like to see Yu Yu Hakusho and Bleach. Favorite DCU Marvel movies. I like the Wonder Woman movie personally a lot. That's just my opinion though. That's the character I'm talking about. He's from Medaka Box. Yeah, that character again. Like characters like that, they're just parody-based characters. You can't really use them too much. You can use them in versus battle, but they're as long as the character has some type of manipulation resistance, then you have to scale it. Because like Demigod can plot manipulate 5D, 6D beings or beings outside of his own world who are the author. So Demigod's manipulation is a lot more impressive than Najimu's, for example, who doesn't really go that far. And same with like the In-Betweener and all types of other beings, or Eternity and such, or the Phoenix Force, like the upper Phoenix Force. Kind of like saying Namek Saga Goku knows Beerus. Yeah, it is. Yeah, that is exactly it, Andre. Better fight Yusuke versus Sensui or Gohan versus Cell? Yusuke versus Sensui was a better fight. The choreography was a lot more interesting, but in this case, Gohan versus Cell had a lot more emotion and impact. But Gohan versus Cell was like a lot of like, fast punches and stuff. There wasn't really that much choreography that was thrown around that makes it an interesting hand-to-hand combat fight. So I would say Yusuke versus Sensui was really interesting. I'm going to say Vegeta using Final Flash was a lot more hype, in my opinion, because the scale was bigger. Now, if Hiei's Dragon of the Darkness Flame also had a big charge-up time and kick-ass music, then yeah. All right, 4 minutes left. Still taking lightning round questions. Ask away. Oh, yeah, I like to say, too, like, a lot of people think Mr. Mixie is that strong. Like, Mr. Mixie, I believe there was a scan that said he needs all his power to open up a realm to the 6th dimension, and, like, he has trouble. But the non-canon Mixie scales to, like, 10th dimensional or 11th dimensional. Like, the Mixie that was messing with multiverses, that's not the actual main canon Mixie. That's a completely different Mixie. I forgot what it, because the Cosmic Adventure Mixie is not the same as the main canon Mixie. And a lot of people confuse that. Like, this Mixie right here. All right, wrong image. Yeah, this Mixie right here. This Mixie right here is not the same as the cartoony cosmic one. This Mixie here is limited to like 6D, low 6D at most. This Mixie, this is the Mixie here, cosmic, that is like 10th dimensional or something crazy, 11th dimensional. He's like ridiculous. This is the really powerful Mixie you're talking about. But if you were to use like a basic one in Death Battle like that, the other Mixie wouldn't really be much use. Anyway, I know it's a stomp, but Yusuke EOS versus Inuyasha EOS. Well, to answer your question, Mr. Hazama, Yusuke versus Inuyasha at best is island level, you can argue. Some could interpret him to be planetary because he can, because of some of his other feats, like in movie feats. But as far as I've seen, canon-wise, they're both, like, Inuyasha's island level. But Inuyasha has light speed reaction. He definitely has reacted to light speed attacks. I have an amino on it where he reacted to segments of light being shot at him, and he was able to react. And he scales far beyond that versus Naraku, and he can deflect attacks back with backslash. Even if you're stronger than him by a large margin, he can still reflect it. And then he can break barriers instantly, and then I think the Black Tech Saga cuts dimensions. So Yusuke has to not get touched. Now, obviously, Yusuke still stomps because he's way faster, but Inuyasha's quite strong. Quite strong. Like, if Inuyasha was a character in Naruto, he would be like Madara level just because he negates dimensions through his sword alone, and he has light speed, attacks, faster than light speed. So Inuyasha ain't that weak. He's pretty impressive, actually. But yeah, I don't know how Misogi's powers really work. I'll do some digging and bring it up in the next stream. I just know he's referred to as the greatest loser or something like that. Yeah, that's actually hilarious. If he's always losing in a plot manipulation, that's pretty interesting. Of course, it depends on how far that plot manipulation goes. But let's see here. Better fight, Yusuke versus Yomi or Goku versus Kid Buu? I think Goku versus Kid Buu was a little more entertaining because of the destructive level they had. Yomi versus Yusuke was... It's close. It's a close, though. It's a close. Someone needs to debunk the whole self-proclaimed statements people use that as evidence or proof that... Yeah, of course. Andre, there is a character called Hao Asakura from Shaman King. This annoying character has so many omnipotent statements. It is so annoying. I will become omniscience and omnipotent. I remember these scans. Oh my gosh. The tiny earth versus the infinite universe. There's like a lot, like Hao Asakura, I can tell you straight up, is definitely far from being the level people think he is. Not even close. Nonetheless, I do commend people for trying to scale Hao, but definitely not omnipotent. Characters who claim they're omnipotent are never omnipotent. And self-proclaimed statements like, I can use billions of this and that and this and that. It's like, all right. There's a difference between proving it and a different... Like, let me give you an example. When Najimo says she has a billion or quintillion different types of attacks versus Cell saying he's solar system. We got the data book saying Cell solar system. We can mathematically calculate Cell to solar system because of how much stronger he is than Frieza, a starbuster. We can mathematically calculate how much stronger, pardon me, we have another promotional guide that says he's solar system. We have a video game that shows him blowing up the solar system. We have another video game that calls it the solar Kamehameha. So you have all this evidence that's author approved or licensed versus her not really having any evidence that she's at that level. There's only just a claim. And that's where hyperbole really stands. The only example I have offer him is he fought someone who made colors hurt him, so he removed all colors from existence and then stomped the guy, but still says he lost the fight in the end. Yeah, that's just that's probably just a comedic gag, or you can just chalk that up to like a curse. That's really silly, to be honest. It's just them being silly with the story. Midaka's all about parodies and making fun of shonen characters with immense power and stuff. I mean, Dr. Slump does it. Aurelie punches Toriyama in the face. And Toriyama is considered by the Daizenshu to be the supreme ruler of Dragon Ball and pretty much everything he runs. Anyway, I've seen all of Inuyasha, and I never thought that he would be that fast, nor that powerful. Oh, let me show you an example, so that you don't think I'm just gassing. All right, I got about, like, I know I passed the threshold, but I'll give it about, like, 2 more minutes before I end the stream. Because I have not eaten, and my wife, she's going to RKO me. I haven't talked to someone in a long time, but there was actually a character who's called, like, there's actually a character who's actually really strong, too. Who, the interesting thing about this character is his powers can be interpreted in so many different ways. But that's what makes him interesting. Oh, did you guys, yeah, I might as well show that on stream. I think I want to show this scan real quick. there was an interview that this is off topic here, but there was an interview that Ed Boon did when they said, if we leave the solar system, can we be in Earth realm? And then I think they said yeah. And then the yes we can comes from Ed Boon, the creator of Mortal Kombat, and he said, where's the limit? And Ed Boon says there is no physical limit. So Earth realm is an infinite size realm. And I know that, like, this is another off topic. He says, then we're kind of playing the concept of multiverses, the concept with infinite possibilities. So basically, there is an infinite set of multiverses. There's a lot of statements like you made a quantum leap forward. I come from another timeline. You were from an alternate timeline. This is a Liu Kang that rules the Nether Realm versus a Liu Kang that says, you fought another Liu Kang? And he says, yes, and I beat them. And she comes from a timeline where she is the Outworld's Khan. So she's above Shao Kahn. And Shao Kahn was the one who said, your father was a weakling. I annihilated him while merging the Outworld and took his queen as my wife. And Outworld should be infinitely in size. I'm not going to go too deep in there. That's another video that Mortal Kombat needs a respect thread on. But I do know that Liu Kang shared Kronika's power. So he got Kronika's power, who had the ability to control all space and time. So don't... Liu Kang is a beast. Oh, boy. But anyway. How'd you get into Yu Yu Hakusho? I just watched it when I was really young, back in like 1999 when it first came on TV. I was like 5 years old, and I just saw the spirit gun and thought it was really cool. I never take been that powerful. Yeah, let me get back to that topic. My bad. I went off topic to talk about Mortal Kombat real quick for no reason whatsoever. So Inuyasha. So while off guard, he can casually dodge lightning. That's pretty impressive. When he cleared the mountain range, this mountain-sized demon, says only the mountains in front of him was blown away. That jerk Inuyasha went on Earth. And this is Inuyasha when he's much weaker. This is a casual wind scar. Keep in mind, this demon, I think this demon was called the Mountain Eater or something, so he scales beyond that. And then there's this scale, and these are beams of light that actually kill it. And if you want proof, a bunch of light. I like those brats, there's a lot of them. It's a little inconsistent because Kagome... I mean, it's kind of like Bulma being able to react to Goku and Vegeta and Trunks and Goku's fights. Somehow Kagome is like, oh, look, it's light. And Inuyasha was able to react to them immediately. But like, there's a couple other scans and feats that show otherwise. Like the Black Tech Saga. See the little galactic image there. In the galaxy, cutting between dimensions and worlds. The light, no, that's... So there's more evidence Inuyasha does have light speed and such. Or does scale to such. I don't even cap him at multi-mountain. I say he's like Island Plus and such, but others will say otherwise. How fast do you think Hunter x Hunter characters are? I haven't done a full power skill on Hunter x Hunter, but I think some characters do have impressive speed feats. I gotta think about it. Naruto should be at least like... Naruto at the bare minimum is at least Large Planet Plus. The reason we know he is because his KCM multipliers in Naruto's base form is able to fight like Toneri, who could destroy the Earth. Like, keep in mind, Toneri cutting the moon was casual. So you got to factor all those in, and Naruto could stack his multipliers on his KCM. And Naruto's KCM is stronger than... So, remember when Naruto had the One Tails QB cloak? 2 tails, 3 tails, 4 tails, 5 tails, 6 tails, no matter how much time, like, and 4 tails made Naruto almost like a Kage level fighter, right? Or somewhat like it. Despite all of that, 6 tails, 8 tails is all weaker than KCM. So when you think about that way, the multiplier is ridiculous. And then he could stack on Sage mode, which I don't even know what that multiplier is. But anyway, unfortunately, haven't owned the rest of the manga, nor haven't seen the anime in a long time. And the series coming back, I should do a throwback for old time's sake. Yeah, we should. We should like scale Black Clover and Inuyasha more on this channel. I think Inuyasha deserves some credit, because I haven't even read the full context of the entirety of manga for this segment. Because if it ends up Inuyasha being universal by the interpretation of this scam, then I'm gonna start going off, yo. Like, oh, fun fact: Yu Yu Hakusho Yusuke is Yakumo with the power gem is universal plus level, and we know this for a fact. You can ask Andre. Andre, you tell them before I end the stream. You tell them why is movie Yusuke universal? Arguably, well, I don't know if you remember, but yeah. I'm scrolling up to find that old conversation we had. It's crazy, yo. Movie Yusuke is ridiculous. Let's see here. Killua versus Black Widow, Marvel MCU, and Hawkeye. That's a good one. I don't know how that would turn out, because Black Widow's reaction time, she can easily... I think Black Widow would probably have a chance, because she can easily react to Killua based on her other feats. But I don't know 100%. I have to like really look carefully, because I believe she's reacted to some crazy feats before. Like, kind of like the Ninja Turtles have also reacted to lasers and stuff, like light speed attacks. So they're obviously like sub-relativistic for aim dodging, at least. Kind of reminds me how fast Kenshin Himura's ultimate slashes, since he created a vacuum of space. It blocked that. Jeez. I didn't 100% finish it, but jeez, that's crazy. All right, let's see if I can pull it up. Alien X is at least 5D plus, because he should be around the primal order of the fifth dimensional beings. So Alien X should at least be infinite multiverse tier, bare minimum. You can actually argue him higher, but I think that's the general scope. Yu Yu Hakusho movie feats. I gotta show how strong they are. I don't even know if I want to talk about it yet. I'll talk about it later, though. But, yeah. Yusuke and Hiei destroy, I think. Well, I don't know, actually. Oh, MCU? Yeah. Well, you're talking MCU. I didn't realize that we're talking about the Marvel Cinema Universe. My bad. Killua beats Marvel Cinema Universe, Hawkeye, and Black Widow, and Yusuke and Hiei destroyed them. My bad. I'm thinking like we're talking about the comic Black Widow, who like responds to lightning timing moves and such. But all right. Oh, it's mid-series? Ooh, gosh, Kenshin, calm down, bro. You're creating vacuums and stuff? That's ridiculous. All right. Oh, my gosh. All right, everyone. So, that has been the video for today. All right, I only got about an hour left for me to do other things. But that has been the explanation on dimensional tiering. Pretty much that's how it works. That's pretty much what dimensional tiering is. It can be interpreted in different ways. If you know any character who has different dimensionality, we can bring that up. But dimensional tiering is touchy topic, and it can be a little confusing because some verses can be interpreted to a higher dimension, but that doesn't always equate to evidence they can. Again, if a character can go to the 6D realm, that doesn't mean they can destroy it, okay? So that doesn't always mean they're 6D. Sometimes you can have that ability. And sometimes a 4D being can't destroy a 3D universe. You know, being a existing being, I'm a 3D being. Does that mean I can destroy a 2D universe? No, because I can't even touch or interact with a 2D universe. I don't know how to. So that's kind of the scope of where we're going with this. But that's pretty much been it for today, guys. Yeah, I'll be more than happy to give another stream. But for now, we're going to be ending it right now. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Andre. So Andre points out, okay, movie Yusuke can destroy the nether world out of existence, and Yusuke is now stronger than King. I think you mean King Enma. He's King Animal. Movie King Enma. Yeah, you're right. I'm going to pull up the scan to show everyone. Because they talk about some immeasurable power. Here you go. There you go. Let's put it right here. But King Enma did destroy the netherworld and banished their king Yakumo and his men to the darkness of space. And then Yusuke asks, so how did the netherworld come back into existence? That means it was destroyed out of existence originally. Yeah, don't sleep on Yu Yu Hakusho characters. Remember, the spirit world scales to the human world, and the human world, netherworld scales to the spirit world. But we all know the spirit world and the netherworld, the demon world, all have multiple stars and are actual universes. So that's a pretty impressive movie feat. Yeah, netherworld is a spirit world opposite, essentially. So yeah, in case anyone ever says, well, this character's universal, I'll be like, all right, well, I'm just going to throw movie Yusuke in there. There you go. Movie Yusuke absolutely would demolish said character. Especially a hypothetical movie Ryzen. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine a hypothetical movie Ryzen? Goodness, that would be ridiculous. But all right, guys, that has pretty much been the video for today. This has been Atari HMB, and I am going to be concluding the stream right here. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Wow, hit up to 12 viewer rates. That is actually quite impressive. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe your thoughts, and I hope you've also learned something on dimensional tiering. And I'll be back with another live video. This is Atari HMB. And I'm signing off. Peace. Also, good point. Andre, good point. Demon World is infinite. And that's a good point. Quick thing. All right, I'll debunk that before I go. Buddy Biggs, the living world is indeed called in Japanese Ningen Kai, which means the human realm or human world where humans live. We can't include that it has to be only Japan because Yu Yu Hakusho itself acknowledges that there is more than one country, period. So, yeah, that's probably the worst downplay argument I've ever seen in my life. I almost lost brain cells reading that. But all right, thank you, and you take care. Peace.